is David, and this is not just a story. It's the memory that has haunted me my whole life. Growing up, there was one rule in my family that was never to be broken. I was never allowed to set foot on my grandmother's farm. She didn't explain why. She never softened her tone. It was strict, almost fearful. "Stay away, David. Promise me you'll never go there." And I promised. For years I kept that promise. But after she passed away, the truth finally came to me. A truth that changed everything I thought I knew about my family, my past, and even myself. I grew up in a small town, the kind where everybody knows your name and secrets never stay hidden for long, except ours. Our family secret sat on a piece of land that belonged to my grandmother, Whitmore Farm. From the outside, it looked ordinary. A stone farmhouse wrapped in ivy, a red barn at the edge of the fields, and acres of land that stretched into the horizon. Neighbors admired it, strangers envied it, but for me it was forbidden. I remember being 8 years old, standing at the wooden gate, watching the sunlight pour across the fields. I wanted to run through the tall grass, climb the hay bales, and explore every corner like children do. But before I could take a single step, my grandmother's hand gripped my shoulder. Her voice was sharp. "David, you must never go inside that farm. Do you understand me?" "Never." I looked up at her, confused. "But why, Grandma?" "It's so beautiful." Her eyes darkened. For a moment, she looked almost afraid. "Because some places are not meant for you. Trust me, child. One day you'll know." I never forgot the weight in her voice. From then on, the farm became something of a ghost to me. Close enough to see every day, yet distant enough to never touch. Years rolled by. I grew older, moved away for college, and built a life of my own. But every time I came back home, I would pass by the farm and feel that same ache in my chest. What was she hiding from me? Why was I forbidden? Then one winter morning, everything changed. The call came just before sunrise. My grandmother had died in her sleep. She was gone. The funeral was a blur of black coats, quiet sobs, and the cold wind that whipped around the churchyard. After the service, the family lawyer handed me a sealed envelope. My name was written on it in her familiar handwriting. With trembling fingers, I opened it. Inside was a short letter. "My dear David, if you are reading this, I am no longer with you. The farm you were never allowed to enter is now yours. I know you hated my silence, but there were reasons. Now the truth belongs to you. Go to the farm, open the barn, and you will finally understand everything." Attached was a brass key, old, heavy, and cold in my hand. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying her words over and over in my mind. Open the barn. What was behind those doors that she spent her whole life protecting? Tomorrow I would find out. The next morning I drove out to the farm with the key burning in my pocket like it weighed 1,000 pounds. The old dirt road twisted through the woods, and with every turn my chest grew tighter. When I reached the gate, I sat in the car for a long while, just staring. The farmhouse looked older than I remembered, its windows covered in dust, the shutters hanging loose. The barn loomed in the distance like a sleeping beast waiting. I stepped out, the cold air biting against my skin. Gravel crunched under my boots as I walked up to the gate, the same wooden gate I had once stood at as a boy. Only this time there was no hand on my shoulder, no voice warning me to stay away. Just silence. The air felt heavy, thick with memories. I pushed the gate open and the rusty hinges squealed, breaking the stillness. As I walked across the overgrown path, I noticed small things that unsettled me. An old wagon wheel half buried in weeds, a broken lantern lying near the porch, and claw-like scratches across one of the barn doors. When I reached the barn, my heart pounded so hard I could hear it echo in my ears. The key in my hand shook as I slid it into the old lock. For a moment I hesitated. My grandmother's voice rang in my mind. Never go inside, but she was gone now. And the truth was mine to uncover. The lock gave way with a heavy click. The wooden doors groaned as I pulled them open, and a wave of cold, stale air rushed out. Inside, the barn was darker than I expected, with only thin beams of sunlight breaking through the cracks in the roof. Dust floated in the air like tiny ghosts. The scent of hay and rust filled my nose. At first, it looked empty, just an ordinary barn with tools hanging on the walls and stacks of straw piled in the corners. But then I saw it. In the far corner, hidden under a tattered sheet, stood something tall and unfamiliar. I walked closer, each step echoing across the wooden floor. My hands trembled as I grabbed the sheet and pulled it away. Underneath was a large wooden chest bound with iron edges. Carved into the lid were letters I had never seen before. Symbols almost ancient, like they belonged to another time. My throat went dry. What was this doing here? I knelt down, brushing the dust off. The chest was locked, but beside it lay another small key as though waiting for me. With shaky hands, I inserted the key and turned it. The lock clicked open. The lid creaked as I lifted it. Inside, I found a collection of old journals tied together with ribbon, faded photographs, and letters yellowed with age. And on top of everything was a single note in my grandmother's handwriting. David, what lies here is the truth of our family. Do not fear it, but know that it may change the way you see me forever. I sat on the floor, surrounded by dust and silence, my hands clutching the first journal. As I opened it, I realized this was no ordinary discovery. This was a confession. The ink was faded, the handwriting shaky, but the words were clear. In this place, I buried secrets that no one could know. Secrets that began long before you were born. My hands went cold. A chill ran down my spine. For the first time in my life, I understood why she had been so protective of this place. The farm wasn't just land. It was a vault of hidden truths, and I had just unlocked it. I sat cross-legged on the dusty barn floor, the journal heavy in my hands. My fingers trembled as I turned the fragile pages. Each word pulled me deeper into a life I thought I knew, but clearly never did. The first entries were written in my grandmother's youth, long before I was born. She wrote about how she had inherited the farm from her father, a stern man with a colder heart than winter. The land is ours, and with it, our duty, he had told her. But she wrote that she always felt the land was more than just fields and soil. She felt it carried a burden, a shadow that lingered over the Whitmore family for generations. I frowned, confused. A shadow, what did she mean? As I kept reading, her tone shifted from youthful to fearful. She wrote about strange nights on the farm. When the animals would grow restless, the wind would howl without warning, and she swore she could hear voices in the barn. I thought I was losing my mind, she wrote. But then I discovered the truth. This land holds memories, and not all of them are kind. My chest tightened. Was this superstition? Or something darker? The next entries revealed even more. She mentioned a man, someone she once loved but could never marry. He had worked on the farm as a young laborer, strong and kind. Their love was secret, hidden in the fields and shadows of the barn. But when her father found out, everything collapsed. Her father forbid the relationship, threatening to throw the man off the land. And then, one stormy night, that man vanished. They told me he left town, she wrote, but I never believed it. I felt it in my bones. Something terrible happened, and the farm knows the truth. I froze, the pages rattling in my hands. Could it be? Had my great-grandfather done something unspeakable? The entries grew darker. My grandmother wrote about guilt that followed her everywhere. She wrote that the farm was cursed by silence, that the pain of that night lingered in the soil itself. Then I found the line that made my blood run cold. David must never know. He is too innocent. He must not carry this burden. That is why I forbid him from coming here. But one day when I am gone, he will learn, and perhaps he will forgive me. I dropped the journal onto the hay-strewn floor, my hands shaking. My grandmother had spent her entire life hiding this from me. Suddenly, the barn no longer felt empty. The silence pressed against my ears, thick and suffocating. I swore I could hear faint whispers like echoes from the past. I turned to the pile of old photographs inside the chest. They showed people I had never seen before. Workers on the farm, family gatherings, and one photo of my grandmother standing beside a young man with kind eyes. The man she had loved. The last photo in the stack nearly made me gasp aloud. It was the barn itself, but the door behind them was wide open. And inside, in the shadows, something seemed to stand. A shape blurred, watching. A chill spread through me. My grandmother's fear wasn't just about the past. She had been protecting me from something she believed still lingered here. I shoved the photographs back into the chest and closed the lid, my heart racing. The farm wasn't just haunted by secrets, it was haunted by truths buried so deep, no one dared unearth them. And now I had no choice. I had to know everything. The days that followed were restless. I could barely sleep, the journal's words echoing in my mind. Every creak of the old farmhouse seemed to whisper the same question: what really happened here? On the third night, I decided I couldn't ignore it anymore. Lantern in hand, I walked back to the barn. The air was heavy, the kind of silence that feels alive. I searched every corner, the rafters, the stalls, the hayloft. Finally, I noticed something odd. Beneath the old feeding trough, the ground seemed uneven, as if it had been disturbed long ago. With shaking hands, I grabbed a rusty spade from the wall and began to dig. The earth was stubborn, packed tight, but after an hour, the blade struck something solid. I fell to my knees, brushing dirt aside with trembling fingers. My breath caught in my throat. A box. Wooden, rotted, but still intact. I dragged it into the lantern light and pried it open. Inside lay a collection of objects: a pocket watch, a faded scarf, and letters tied with ribbon. Letters written by my grandmother, addressed to the man she had loved. I unfolded one. Her words bled with sorrow. "I will love you until the day I die. I'm sorry I could not protect you. I am sorry for what my father has done." The truth crashed over me. My great-grandfather had not just forbidden their love, and he had taken it from her. That man had never left. His life, his future, had ended here on this farm. I swallowed hard, tears stinging my eyes. Suddenly, the curse she had spoken of made sense. The land was not cursed by superstition. It was cursed by silence, by a crime buried deep and never confessed. I whispered into the still air, "I know now, Grandma. I know everything." For a moment, the barn seemed to breathe. The silence lifted, replaced by a strange calm. It was as though the farm itself had been waiting for someone to finally unearth the truth. At dawn, I carried the letters and the pocket watch to the hill behind the house, where my grandmother was buried. I placed them on her grave, my voice breaking as I spoke. "You carried this pain your whole life, but you don't have to carry it anymore. I'll remember for you. I'll forgive you." The morning sun spilled across the fields, golden and warm. For the first time, the farm didn't feel heavy. It felt free. I stayed there for hours, listening to the wind in the trees, feeling as though my grandmother was finally at peace. And that maybe, so was I. That day I made a decision. I wouldn't sell the farm. I would restore it. Not just for me, but for her. For the love she lost and for the truth she had hidden. The land was no longer a prison of secrets. It was a place of memory, and I was its keeper. And that was my story. A tale of love, loss, and the secrets we carry. Some truths remain buried, but when they surface, they change everything. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who loves meaningful tales, and subscribe to Elder Tales Stories for more real and emotional journeys. Until next time, remember, every family has a story worth telling.